My name is Christine McDougall and I am co-founder of Big Blue Sky and Chief Steward of 223 AM. Big Blue Sky is an annual event designed to convene and coordinate citizens to co-create moonshot projects that increase the commonwealth of community. This is an excerpt of the fireside chat recorded May 9th, 2016 with Dr. David Martin, world expert in innovation finance. For the entire chat, visit 223am.com/podcast. That's the number 3am.com/podcast.
Well, I think it's important to separate innovation from incrementalism, and I think that this is a mistake that we make in our economy today.
Okay.
We think that when Apple decides to change the shape of a rectangle to a rounded rectangle, that's innovation. We think that slide to unlock as a way to unlock our phone is innovation. Never mind the fact that sliding things to unlock things has been around probably as long as at least the locks that are working in temples in Egypt from, 3,000 years before the Common Era. This notion that incremental improvements or function-based incrementalism is innovation is a gross mistake. It actually does what the GFC proved about the real estate market. When you take 30-year assets called real estate and you pool it with consumer credit, which is what happened in the GFC, you take a fixed-dated asset and you turn it into a variable asset. When you do that, you collapse an economy. That's what happened in 2008. The same thing is the case with innovation. If you take fundamental materials science, you take fundamental materials organization, and you start doing some interesting things with it, you actually build industries that can evolve over time. When your industries are largely taking existing models and optimizing them so that they're more socially convenient, what you've done is a utilitarian improvement, but you haven't done innovation. And when innovation becomes a politically correct and celebrated term for market adaptability and market implementation, what you've done is you've taken long-scale material science production cycles, like what we do with copper, like what we do with semiconductors, like what we do with the silicon crystal, and you turn that into something which isn't fundamentally changing. What that means is that we're always constrained within the frameworks of the science and technology that we had in the 40s and 50s. So what we haven't done, in fact, I have this long-standing challenge that I get a lot of criticism for, but I've asked anybody to name a true invention that's happened since World War II. I don't care whether you're talking about solid fuel rockets. I don't care if you're talking about radio antenna. I don't care if you're talking about electronic commerce. I don't care if you're talking about any of those things. And the fact of the matter is, you'd be hard-pressed to get an audience anywhere to identify something that truly was invented since the Second World War. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean we don't have contexts that have shifted that says we can move things more efficiently and we can shovel data a lot faster and we can stack it a lot neater. But we haven't done fundamental question the underlying assumptions level invention for a long time. And people point to alternative energy as a place where they want to go. But ask yourself, solar photovoltaics, how old are they really? In the physics behind that, the ability to look at energy levels of photonic capture across different planes inside of the solar cell has been around a long time. How long have we operated with the same horrible efficiencies? Less than 27% energy harvest. The fact of the matter is, we've been doing that since the giant, everything in the world was going to change energy crisis of 1973. Now, can we make solar cells a little faster? Yes. Can we make more of them? Yes. But that's not invention. That is incrementalism for the purpose of consumption. And so one of the grave challenges is when we look at society and say, what is our resilience plan if we have pension failure, if we have banking failure, if we have currency failure, if we have all of these other systems that after 70 years old are starting to break their hips and fall over, what is the go-to plan that says, hey, we the people know that we can actually go back to material science and start playing with material science, or we can start going to other things and start playing with them. And the fact is, we don't have education systems for that.
Yeah.
We don't have laboratories for that. We don't have business process innovation for that. We don't have a robust laboratory experiment that says, here's a model that works. Those are not commonly accessible. So the concern that we really fundamentally have as a public is that we have this phenomenal engine that has been propped up through intervention for the last 70 years. And when the engine stops running, the emperor having no clothes is going to be super visible.
Right.
And we're going to see that we actually haven't fundamentally done as a people what we are actually required to do as a people, which is to lead, challenge status quos, push boundaries, understand what is the known and the laws of the universe and laws of physics, and what are just the consensus illusions.
Right. So just before we move into the future, I just want to give a little bit of context to that, because I know that you have spent the last 25 or so years building a huge database of, or huge storehouse of innovation, something like 88 million. 88 million patents stored on your servers and so on. And so when you're talking about innovation, you have the opportunity to look on a daily basis at the inside of, I sort of use it like Google, the Google of patents and innovation. And so this is not something that you're making as an idle comment. This is something that you're making as a daily observation in your life experience.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one of the things I love about that point is for years, people thought I was just dogmatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were probably right.
Yeah.
Probably was dogmatic. But several years ago, I decided to prove it in terms that they would understand.
Yeah.
And so several years ago, we decided that if you want to really show that what you're measuring and the allegations you're making about invention and innovation are true, the best way to do it is to take the top of the market, the largest asset holders, the largest industrial complexes in the world, which are Russell 1000 equivalent large corporations publicly traded around the world, run our analysis on what's the difference between invention, innovation, and incrementalism.
Yes.
And then invest in equities that are invention heavy and incrementalism light.
Right.
So the thesis is simple. If I'm right, and if the way I look at my data is right, I should be able to pick out companies who have the highest probability of succeeding in forward market opportunities because they're the most innovative companies. And if you can do that in the largest cap companies on earth, then you're probably measuring something correctly. Right. Because efficient market theory tells us that everybody that's in the market has all the knowable information, and everything that's knowable is known generally, therefore you should pick up no advantage. Mm-hmm. Tiny problem. Since we launched our Purple Bridge Fund strategies, we have a typical 108% outperform of the industrials indexes. Mm-hmm. Now, 108% outperformance means that I'm measuring something, not a little something. I'm measuring something that is massive.
Yeah.
And it turns out that since my performance is audited, it's not my dogmatic position. Now, that doesn't lessen my dogmatism.
Right.
Let's be really clear. I actually get more dogmatic. I get borderline rabidly dogmatic because now I'm beating the system at its own game.
Yeah.
Proving that what I'm measuring is in fact measurable, and proving the thesis that when I say things aren't innovative and not part of a value accretive process of innovation, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Now, the fact is that when we look at that, and we look at that at a global level, where we look at US and European equities at the large cap, we look at the ASX level, what we see is that there is nobody who's actually willing to say the emperor has no clothes. We don't want to point to a company and say, I'm sorry, despite the fact that Silicon Valley put tons of venture capital into, despite the fact that all of the VC models have reinforced your illusion, you're not innovative. Nobody wants to say that. And the reason why they don't is because of the three-legged stool. If you pull the illusion of innovation out from under this current market, who loses? Well, who loses are the pension holders, right? Self-managed, annuity funds here, the super funds in Australia. Who loses? The ETF buyers. 70% of the current market trade is ETFs. Most of the public is exposed to ETFs.
ETF is
exchange-traded funds.
Right.
These things don't have the inputs on what's inventive, what's innovative, and what's incremental. And now all of a sudden, if you call the bluff of the current system, you've now threatened all of the system.
Right.
And so it's convenient to look the other way. It's convenient to say, well, let's be overweight in Australia, 40 to 50% overweight to real estate, which sounds like a phenomenally good idea given the fact that it was overweight real estate in 2007, which blew up the global economy.
Please join us for Big Blue Sky, October 7th and 8th, 2016 on the Gold Coast. David will be one of our guest presenters. Visit bigblueskyevent.com for more information and to register your name. For more information on Dr. Martin, visit m-cam.com and for his blog, invertedalchemy.com. For more information about Christine McDougall, visit 3am.com. Thank you so much for joining us.